Committee will come to order. Chair will fire this thing back up. Chair wishes to thank our Sergeant-at-Arms for the great work that they always do, especially with a packed house like we have today. Members, the Chair is going to recognize our pages who are with us today. If you will stand when your name is called. Malachi Makashi with Representative Abe Jones. Lucy Morris, Representative Marsha Morey. Sanjana Prabhakar with Speaker Moore. Matthew Sun, Representative Lofton. Akshita Jain, Representative Robertson. And Anna McMillan with Representative Jerry Lowry. Thank you all for being with us today. Members, we're going to begin with House Bill 466, Representative Crutchfield. The gentleman can take his time coming up, and the gentleman will be recognized to speak to House Bill 466. The gentleman will turn his microphone on, and
yes,
Chair sees Representative Winslow as well. The Chair is going to recognize both of you gentlemen to speak at will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 466 is to allow temporary dwellings during the construction of a private residence. The bill has been discussed quite a bit. It gives the local authorities the ability to issue permits and to control access to those type of housing situations. It limits the number of temporary dwellings that can exist on a piece of property. It's been approved, it's been reviewed and supported by the Home Builders Association and the North Carolina Realtors Association. I would appreciate your support of the bill.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Dahl had her hand raised first, and Chair will come to Representative Torbett next. Representative Dahl. Ladies recognized.
So, this temporary dwelling, so it's like, are there any specifications for it? Is it like just putting a trailer on there, or?
It can be an RV, it can be a trailer, but it is temporary and it is regulated by local authorities.
Okay, so, and will it have plumbing and all that kind
of? It has to have facilities such that established that allows it to be there in terms of a living facility, yes.
Okay.
Representative Torbett.
Motion at appropriate time, Mr. Chair.
Members, is there further discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Torbett moves for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, gentlemen. House Bill 388, Representative Cleveland, campaign contribution, expenditure thresholds. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 388 will do nothing more than raise the $50 limit on campaign contributions and expenditures to $100.
Members, is there a discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Jones moves for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
This is a cut and replace, and it's for Faircloth. He's here.
Senate Bill 132 is Representative Faircloth with us yet? Okay, the chair is going to displace that bill momentarily. Senate Bill 169, Senator Jarvis.
There is an amendment that you're offering.
And the chair does have an amendment that improves this bill for the gentleman. I don't know if the gentleman wants to speak to the amendment or take up the amendment first, if that's okay. Members, the chair is going to put forth the amendment that deals with Carteret County. Chair doesn't believe this to be a...
Mr. Chairman, move for adoption of the amendment.
And also something to do with the city of Gastonia, as the chair hears Representative Torbett speak up. Is there further discussion or debate on the amendment? Hearing none, Representative Torbett moves for its adoption. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. And Senator Jarvis, the gentleman is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 169 in the original form was simply a technical correction to Senate bill that we passed last year, and the municipality requested it. It actually makes the bill align with the UDO of the municipality.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Torbett moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 169 as amended, rolled into a new PCS unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Thank you. Ayes have it. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, sir. Senate Bill 579. Senator Newton. The chair understands there's a PCS. Representative Hastings moves the PCS be before the committee without objection. PCS is before the committee. Gentleman's recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be back before the House Rules Committee from a long hiatus. Originally, this bill was going to be a simple bill to increase the penalty for transmitting obscenity to minors from an I felony to an H felony, but in the House J Committee, they did a lot of work and added some good things in there in Section 2 and Section 3. In particular, I would note that the Section 3, creating a new Class A1 misdemeanor for sexual contact with a minor, this is some language and it addresses an issue that there's been a gap in prosecutions where they're having trouble prosecuting people for improper touching. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Torbett moves for a favorable report to the PCS to Senate Bill 579, unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, sir. Members, the chair is going to move to Senate Bill 542. The chair understands Senator Galey and maybe others are here. Senator Galey, if you want to come on up, we've got Senate Bill 542. The chair understands there's 4 amendments to this bill. Does the lady want to take up the amendments first or speak to the bill first?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Representative Hardister is prepared to handle this bill for us today.
Okay. Well, Representative Hardister, you can speak from your seat. The gentleman is recognized. Would the gentleman like to take up the amendments or the bill first?
Mr. Chair, I'll just speak briefly to the bill. It's in my view, it's non-controversial, had unanimous vote in the Senate. It makes various changes that were requested by the Department of Labor. It is an agency bill. Happy to entertain any questions if there's discussion. With that, I'll yield, and I believe there are amendments to the bill.
Members, the chair is going to move to the amendments, and then we'll debate the bill. That's okay. Representative Jones recognized to send forth Amendment ABWF 15 version 6. Representative Jones, gentleman's recognized to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, you've already voted this particular amendment in a different bill, 2 bills, 199, 198. Agents request, industry request that we move it over to try to expedite getting this done. I'll stand for any questions, but it was a unanimous vote by you already.
Is there discussion or debate on the amendment? Hearing none, Representative Jones moves for adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Members, we're going to recognize Representative Mills to send forth Amendment ASH 32, version 5. The gentleman's recognized to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a straightforward amendment that addresses an oversight that exists in the current statute. It will allow bars that serve food to be subject to public health inspection, and it was an oversight created when the definition of bar changed. I know of no opposition.
Any discussion or debate on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Sane moves for adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Representative Jones recognized to send forth Amendment ABW 17, version 4. Representative Jones, gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very simple amendment. Part 1 is for the S-line corridor. It's a DOT request. Part 2, in lovely Caldwell County, North Carolina, that this would help with the economic development of that rail line. I'll stand for any questions.
This one ought to do pretty well. Remember, any discussion or debate on this bill that's going to help economic development in Caldwell County, according to Representative Jones? Hearing none, Representative Sane moves for adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Representative Torbett's recognized to send forth Amendment AMV 2, version 1. Gentleman's recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd let staff explain to.
Which member of staff worked on this amendment? The gentleman can take his time. Come on up to the podium. That way you don't have to hold your computer on. The gentleman's recognized to speak to the amendment.
Thank you very much. I'm David Unwin. I'm a staff attorney with the General Statutes Commission. So there's a typographical error in a bill passed earlier this year. There's a reference to 147-69.22. This changes it to 147-69.2. Just gets rid of an extra 2.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the amendment? Representative Torben?
Mr. Chairman, I just remind that you're only entitled to 2 typographical errors in a session, so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We've already broken that rule, so we'll have to look at that later on. Is there further discussion or debate on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Torben moves for adoption. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Members, we're back on the bill now as amended. Do any members wish to debate the bill as amended? See, Representative Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform my colleagues that the provision inside of it was requested by DHHS for the food and safety in bars and served food, and they are in support of their bill.
Further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Sane moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 542 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill, with permission for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the bill receives a favorable report. Members, the chair is going to go back to Senate Bill 132. Representative Hardister, the gentleman is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm running this on behalf of Representative Fairclough. This was requested by the city of High Point. There's an orphan property that the city is seeking to annex for a right-of-way project. I'm not aware of any opposition.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Hardister moves for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The bill receives a favorable report. Okay, members, we're going to move to Senate Bill 308. The chair understands this the bill Senator Galey, among others, may be here for. Chair understands there is what our chair believes to be a friendly amendment that Representatives Smith and or Cairns may speak to. Senator Galey, do you want to speak to the bill first or take up the amendments first?
If it pleases the chair, I'd speak to the bill first.
Ladies recognized, speak to the bill.
Thank you, sir. So this bill would reform guardianship rights in the state of North Carolina, say that a court must consider whether there is a less restrictive alternative to a full guardianship. Examples of that would be whether or not there could be a responsible payee, technological experience, assistance, appointment of an agent, and other ways such as those where the respondent would not have to have all of their rights stripped from them, and they could have an accommodation for their individual case. I know of no opposition to it.
Members, before we move to the amendments, is there any debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Carson Smith will be recognized to send forth Amendment ATJ 85, version 4, and the gentleman will just be recognized to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is basically the last two. The amendment would add 2 sections. It's basically House Bill 807, which has already passed the House 104-9. Be glad to answer any questions, but I'd ask for your support.
Is there any discussion or debate on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Jones moves for adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Members, is there further discussion or debate on the bill as amended? Seeing none, Representative Jackson moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 308 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill receives a favorable report. Senate Bill 477. Looks like Senator Overcash is going to speak to this, and the gentleman will be recognized to speak to the bill, and then we'll move to the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a bill recommended by the North Carolina Bar Association, worked appropriately through their committees, and it's an update to the Business Corporation Act related to business disclosures. It does a number of things, but I'll point out three of the more significant ones. Number one, it allows non-public corporations, we're not dealing with publicly traded companies, unless prohibited by their articles of incorporation, to take action by written consent of the shareholders if a sufficient number of those shareholders, had they been present and voting, have signed off on that written consent. It also allows franchisors to meet their disclosure requirements under this act if they have met their Federal Trade Commission disclosure requirements, which are substantially similar and in some cases identical to that. There was also an amendment as it was working through on the Senate side that allows shareholders to inspect the records of subsidiaries of corporations, and it defines subsidiaries, so it shines some additional sunlight on that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for any questions.
Members, is there any discussion or debate on the bill before we move to the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Stevens is recognized to send forth the amendment ATG 87 version 2. The lady's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And what this amendment does goes to debt collection. When the debt has been charged off and then bought up by another creditor, the amendment would require the debt purchaser to just attach an accounting of the amount owed, including the amount of the principal, the amount of any interest, fees, and charges, and whether the charges were imposed by the original creditor, a debt collector, or a subsequent consumer. It's a minor change to North Carolina law, but brings us in line with California and New York.
Is there discussion or debate on the amendment? That last part kind of left us wondering, but anyway. Perhaps there are some other states as well that do that. Seeing no discussion on the amendment, Representative Stevens moves for a for adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Back on the bill. Members, is there any discussion or debate on the bill as amended? Seeing none, Representative Stevens moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 477 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, sir. Members, we're going to move to Senate Bill 154. Representative Bradford, the gentleman is recognized. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This bill had a unanimous support out of Finance this morning, went through the subcommittee. It's an omnibus occupancy tax bill that the Senate and House have kind of brought all these bills together, and it also includes a sunset extension for prepared food tax for Mecklenburg County. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any discussion or debate on the bill? Representative Dahl.
What was that last sentence you said? Food tax?
Yes, Mecklenburg County, we're extending a 1%, just extending it, yes. Yeah, no problem.
Members, is there any discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Jones moves for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Senate Bill 678, Clean Energy. Other changes. Representative Art, Representative Winslow. The gentlemen are recognized to speak to the bill. There's a PCS. Representative Jones moves for the PCS be before the committee without objection. PCS is before the committee. Gentlemen, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. What this bill does is changes the definition of renewables to clean energy to provide for a more expansive view of not just renewables. Adds the definition of fusion for fusion energy, makes changes to the CPCN aspect of public convenience and necessity that would make sure we adopt the least cost sense in the public interest. Again, changes the definition of renewable to clean energy for an all-the-above strategy. This bill also extends the deadline for certain coal ash, coal combustion residuals impoundment. This has been worked out between Duke Power and DEQ and increases some of the closure dates on there. Talks about dam safety and fees in the Dam Safety Act. That's DAM. And it incorporated 535. The PCS before you also makes changes that relates to when local government commissions involved to enter into agreements to cede or transfer a public enterprise to a non-governmental entity. There are requirements there that the local government commission's involved in. Representative Winslow and I stand for any questions. It's a good bill.
Members, is there discussion or debate? Representative Torbett, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Representative Ard. I have a question for you. What is currently deemed clean energy in state law in North Carolina, or what do the federals accept as clean energy?
By definition, it has historically been the renewables, low carbon generation sources.
So if we adopt this, does that remove any other opportunity for an energy source to be implemented, for example?
It actually, it's an attempt to recognize nuclear and the fact that it is the cleanest in the sense of zero carbon reduction, and it's tended to expand to include nuclear, fossil, fusion, or hydrogen possibly coming was there in the definition.
So follow up.
Gentleman's recognized.
Yeah, so with the language clean energy, it doesn't prohibit the other ones from coming online. You're saying it makes them more inclusive, so it would be deemed as a hydrogen, for example, would now be deemed as a clean energy?
Particularly nuclear technologies would be deemed as part of low carbon clean energy definition.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, is there further discussion or debate on the bill? Representative Jackson, gentleman's recognized. Further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Jackson moves for a favorable report to the PCS to Senate Bill 678, unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the bill receives a favorable report. Members, we're going to move back up now to Senate Bill 218. Senator Sawry is here to present this bill. And the chair is told that the chair actually has an amendment that is just now being uploaded that deals with an AOC matter. Just 1 second, Senator Secretary. Members, the chair understands the amendment has now been uploaded to the dashboard, and it comes at the request of AOC, basically changing the effective date of certain sections. This deals with e-courts and decedents dying in on or after the date of March 1st, 2024. And the chair understands there's no controversy as to this amendment. Is there any discussion or debate as to the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Jones moves for its adoption. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. And Senator Sawry, gentleman, be recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to appear today. This is a bill that came to us from the North Carolina Bar Association's fiduciary law section's been vetted, came through the Senate. The top-level summary is that it modifies what's called the year's allowance with respect to spouses and to children if somebody has passed away, and it also makes a conforming change with respect to a will in the event that a will is not updated after a spouse has been divorced from somebody and presumes that spouse has been predeceased. I believe that you look at the language as these actually strengthens the rights of widows and children and provides a greater protection for their assets in the event of creditor claims against the estate. Appreciate your support.
Members, is there a discussion or debate? Representative Cunningham, ladies recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. It looks like the $60,000 on Part 1, Section 1-2, the surviving spouse is $60,000. Your allowance is $6,000 is exempt from the lien. That's an increase because it seems like it was $30,000. Am I correct?
That's correct, Representative.
Thank you. And in addition to that, if it's a minor child under the age of 21, they also would get the additional $10,000.
That's correct, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Jones moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 218 as amended, rolled into a new PCS unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill receives favorable report. Thank you, sir. Members, we're going to move now to Senate Bill 754. There's a PCS. Representative Jones moves the PCS be before the committee, and without objection, the PCS is before the committee. Members, this is a bill to be presented by the chair. It's just the typical appointments bill that has no unusual controversy in it. Is there any discussion or debate as to the appointments bill, Senate Bill 754?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Torbett.
Move for favorable report.
Seeing no discussion or debate, Representative Torbett moves for a favorable report to the PCS to Senate Bill 754. Unfavorable to the original bill. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bill receives a favorable report. Representative Mills will move now to Senate Bill 747, election law changes, and I see Senator Daniel here. The gentleman, if you want to be recognized as well, Senator Daniel.
Just momentarily, Mr.
Gentleman's recognized.
Just want to thank the committee for taking up the bill, for all the work that the House and the staff have done on improving Senate Bill 747. In many ways, this bill is technical and clarifying, but it does have some key substantive provisions that we believe will increase election integrity. And probably the two most substantive changes would be requiring absentee ballots to be in by close of polls on Election Day, and also tightening up the rules related to same-day registration during early voting. Representative Mills is going to explain the bill, but I do want to at least point out to the committee that by changing our Election Day deadline for absentee ballots, we are bringing ourselves into conformity with 30 other states, including many red and blue states. So I'll defer to Representative Mills.
Representative Mills, the gentleman's recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Senate Bill 747 makes numerous changes and improvements to our current election laws and our current election processes. The aim of the bill is to improve our elections. The first way it does that is through one-stop voting. We completely rewrote the one-stop vote statutes. They are now going to be referred to as early voting. Now, why do we do that? Well, North Carolina is a growing state. Have a lot of people that want to move here. We have a lot of voters. Our voter rolls continue to increase. And the most popular method of voting for our citizens is one-stop. In 2020, nearly 65% of all voters participated in casting their ballots through the one-stop process. To improve one-stop, we actually made it more like Election Day. It is an in-person activity. It needed to have the same proven methods and safeguards that our Election Day processes have, so we rewrote the one-stop statutes, and that's one reason the bill grew so much in length. If you look at the bill summary provided by staff, you will see all the sections that were touched just by making that one change. We also looked at our poll observer statute. We rewrote that statute. We made it clearer. It provides a very good balance so people know what is expected at the polls. Our citizens want to participate at the polls. They want to be poll observers. They want to be runners. We actually wrote in a runner statute. People know what to expect, but it provides very good balance, and it definitely gives our chief judges and our judges the ability to control the election site and to address any issues. So there's a very good balance there. Same-day voter registration that came to us in the Senate bill, I think we made it better, provided a good balance there. Members, there's a lot of things in this bill. I know some of you have some questions, and I know that there might even be some amendments. So what I'd like to do is just, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to stand for any questions. Some of the things in this bill you have seen before, such as Election Day being the date that ballots are due. We saw that in our last session. We've seen that language this time. Actually, the House passed it and the Senate passed it last session. There's other things in the bill that we've seen before, such as no private funds in elections. Now, the new things like the runner statute, the one-day changing that to early voting, all that's new. all of it aims to make our processes on Election Day, during early voting, mail-in ballots, to make it more efficient and to make it more user-friendly. I will be glad to stand for any questions, Mr. Chair.
Members, is there discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Davis moves for a favorable report. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no.
No.
Chair, the ayes have it, and the bill receives a favorable report. Members, hang tight 1 second. Members, there being no further business before the committee is now adjourned.